In this video, we will review the process of completing the Understanding by Design or UbD Framework Stage 1 template. In UbD Stage 1, we identify desired results for our unit. The first thing that we will do in our Stage 1 is identify and type in the subject or discipline such as math. Below that, we will type in the class name and number such as Algebra 1, Period 2. Next, we will type in the class time frame such as 1 school year or 164 days. Below that, we will type in the grade level such as 9th grade. And then below there, we will type in keywords such as math or algebra 1 or linear equations. Below that, you will type in the name of your school. And then below that, you will type in the name of your school district. Next, in the area that says type of school or organization, you will click in the box next to the type of school that you are teaching or at or working with, such as public school or private school. And then below that, you will type in the name of the textbook for your class, such as Reveal Algebra 1. And then below that, if you have a link to online resource materials for the course that you're teaching for your unit or the curriculum that you're using, simply copy and paste that link into the appropriate box. And then below there, where it says unit type, in the unit title, such as linear and nonlinear functions. And then below that, type in the unit time frame. That information should be available in the unit pacing guide, or perhaps your school or your grade level teachers have developed your own pacing. So perhaps I might put in 15 days for the unit time frame. And then below that, where it says, where does unit fit into the class? In my case, I'm going to be using Module 4. So I might type in Module 4 of 13 or however many total modules there are in the entire course. On the next page, we see that there's a question about the unit delivery. So for instance, if you're teaching some of the time face-to-face and some of the time online, then you would click into blended. But if you're 100% face-to-face, then you would just click into F2F. Or if it's a fully online class, like remote learning, then you would just click into online. Or let's say that you are face-to-face, but you use a lot of technology and you want to mention that, you could always click into other and just describe that, where it says click or tap here to enter text. And then below that, you'll see information about your course design. And it's asking you the question, why are you developing this course? And so you can click in the box to indicate if it's a course project, if you're planning to teach it, or perhaps it's part of your team, your math team, that's going to be developing the course, or perhaps other. And then below there you see the time frame to teach. And so you may put that this unit or the specific lesson I'm going to teach is maybe 3 45-minute daily lessons or whatever is applicable. And then below that, you see that it's asking about your level of expertise. So you can just click to indicate in the box which one describes you. Are you a college student? So then you would put future instructor. If you're designing the course, click in there. Or if you're the teacher, then you could consider yourself to be a subject matter expert, as you would have a degree in whatever it is that you would be teaching. Next, below that, you see the unit summary and unit overview. So you're going to go ahead and give an overview of your unit in your own words. Now, you want to make sure that you use simple words, so it's easy for the reader to understand. In this space, I might type something in like, my students will graph linear and absolute value functions. I may also say that they will find and interpret the rate of change in the slope of lines, and they will identify the effects of transformations on the graphs of linear functions. And then below there, you have a chance to revisit your big idea. So perhaps you already know what you want your big idea to say, or perhaps you want to rethink it. You want to make sure that it is going to be interesting and hopefully even inspirational. Now remember that in UbD, the nice thing about it is no matter what you put in here, you always have a chance to come back and revisit it, and you can tweak it, you can change it if you decide that maybe you have a better way to describe it to make it even more interesting or more exciting. So for now, I may just type something in like linear and nonlinear functions can tell you about the relationships that they represent in the real world. So while that might not be earth-shattering, again, I know I can come back and make changes. And then below there, you're going to see information about professional organizations for content. It's really beneficial to pick standards that have been created by professional organizations that are well respected and are very familiar, that many people such as other teachers, a school district, a state, or even perhaps parents are familiar with. So for instance, depending on your state may have adopted for math the Common Core State Standards for mathematics. And so in that case, I would include the Common Core State Standards Initiative. That would be the organization, the professional organization. And then I would locate their URL where I can find the standards and information about them. And I would copy and paste that input URL here. Now, if there's a separate link to competencies, I can copy and paste that below there in number 3. And then if you happen to have a second professional organization, well, you can go ahead and put that information below there. Next, you're going to see that you are going to have a chance to type in the code and the actual wording of the standards and or competencies. So because I am going to be teaching an Algebra 1 unit and the professional organization that I've chosen is the Common Core State Standards of Mathematics, I'm going to choose the Common Core State Standards codes and standards and competencies that I will be teaching in that particular unit, because the curriculum that I happen to be using for this unit actually is identifying that. So that makes it easy, and if not, you can look at whichever course you're teaching, whatever unit you're teaching, you can look up the standards and codes and identify whatever is the best code and standard to fit the concepts that you're teaching, and that's what you would use. So you can type or copy and paste the code on the left under code, and then in the right here under standards and or competencies, just go ahead and type in the actual wording of each of the standards. And I was able to get that from the website. And the nice thing about that is, again, teachers, any teachers or districts or administrators are more than likely going to be familiar with those standards. They're going to be well respected. So you're not going to get any questions about why are you teaching this. And then once you've had a chance to complete that and you've typed in all the codes and all of the standards that you're covering in your unit, the very next step in stage 1 template is transfer. Now when I think about transfer, I'm thinking beyond just what am I teaching my students in this unit, like slope is rise over run, and I really want to come up with things that they can use even outside of my classroom, maybe even another subject area or in later years. So for instance, in Algebra 1, I have mathematical practice standards that fit the definition of transfer. So for instance, I may include some transfer statements such as make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. Or I might include something like reason abstractly and quantitatively. Or another one that I may use is use appropriate tools strategically. So those things can be used in a variety of areas, well beyond this unit, beyond this grade. You can use the ideas of persevering with problems. That can be in just about any subject area. So that's the type of thing that we're looking for in transfer. Below there, we see meaning. Now, of course, before I move on, let me mention that there are specific codes for those mathematical practice standards. So, of course, I'm going to include those there. So if you do have the codes, definitely you want to include them. Now, the next step is meaning. So I want to think about how am I going to make meaning out of the standards and the competencies and the transfer, those mathematical practice standards in my case, that I've identified that I'm going to teach in this unit. So to do that, I am going to identify one or more essential questions. I want to ensure that these are not just simple questions like, what is the slope of the line? Rather, I want to make it kind of a bigger concept, such as what can a linear function tell you about the relationship that it represents? Now, if you're able to identify competency codes that connect with that essential question, then go ahead and type those in that right column below where it says competency codes. And then below there, we see that the next section is all about understanding. So I want to identify the enduring understandings. And I need to put that in the form of a statement, such as students will understand that the slope or rate of change of a line is how a quantity is changing with respect to the change in another quantity, and then be able to use that to interpret the relationship between two quantities in a real-world situation. So whatever you decide that you're going to put for your understanding, your enduring understanding, it should relate to your essential question or questions, and basically explain what the student needs to understand in order to be able to answer the essential question. Now remember that the essential question is not going to have one right or wrong answer. The essential question really was designed to get the students to think and to begin more of that inquiry process. But the enduring understanding is going to connect with that. Again, it needs to go beyond just simple knowledge like slope is rise over run. Now, once I've identified my enduring understandings, then I'm going to go ahead and break it down into acquisition of knowledge and acquisition of skills. So first of all, I am going to identify the knowledge. So knowledge is facts and basic concepts that the student needs to be able to recall or to know. For instance, here I might type, students will know that the rate of change equals the change in y divided by the change in x. And then if I have a competency code that is connected to that, I'll go ahead and type it or copy and paste it in there. And then below that, I'm going to list the skills that the students will need to acquire. Now, the difference between knowledge and skills is knowledge is something that the students will know like a fact, like slope is rise over run. Whereas a skill is something that students need to be able to actually do. So for skills, I might type, students will find and interpret the rate of change and slope of line. So they're actually doing something. Or maybe I would type something like, students will graph equations in slope-intercept form. So they're actually physically doing something. So that's what a skill would be. And then to the right of that, I would go ahead and type in the competency code that would correspond. Now, just so you know, you may end up with kind of a one-to-one correspondence. I mean, you may end up having, 3 essential questions, 3 understandings, 3 knowledge, and 3 skills. But it may not work out quite that way, and that's fine. That's completely fine. But you wanted to kind of be, keep them in sort of the same order so that it flows together. So once you complete that, now you have completed stage 1 of understanding by design, identifying desired results. Thank you so much for joining me to learn about understanding by design, stage 1 template.